Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Since it is the end of the month, you all know the drill. It is time for my September wrap-up and October TBR. So in September I read 6 books, which is, not too bad. And let's just get right into it. The first book, I'm gonna get it out of the way since I've already done a full review on it. It was You Know Me Well by Nina LaCour and David Levithan. I will link my full review down below so you can go check it out. This one is a YA contemporary about 2 gay kids who are hanging out in San Francisco for the week of Pride, and I liked it. I really like Nina LaCour's writing. I've read some stuff by her before, and I've read some stuff by David Levithan before, and I think that they work really well together as a duo. Both of these authors tend to write books that have a slight sense of the magical to them, even though they are technically contemporary and do not have any fantasy elements. There's just this sort of sense that like everything's gonna work out, and there's like happy coincidences and like fairy godmother type characters, and so this is just a really fun story about like the magical week where Kate and Mark meet at a bar during Pride Week and then realize that they need to be friends. Kate is on the verge of meeting a girl that she has a really big crush on, and Mark is realizing that the guy that he likes might not really like him back, and so it's just about like queer kids and friendship and the sort of really weird fast friendships that can sometimes happen just if you happen to be in the right place at the right time. So the next book on here is the first one that I did on audiobook this month, because I did 2. It was Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I've had a physical copy of this for a while, but I just wasn't getting to it, and I had space in my audiobook queue, so I ended up doing it on audiobook. I really liked the audiobook actually. There are 5 or 6 narrators, and each narrator has their own voice actor, which I thought worked pretty well because they were all really good. The one thing that kind of bothered me was that sometimes they would pronounce things slightly differently, like the made-up place names and the made-up character names. Some of the voice actors had slightly different pronunciations for them. I did get slightly distracted during Inej's chapters because the voice actress for Inej sounds almost exactly like Kristen Bell doing the Veronica Mars audiobook, which was slightly distracting, but also, I really liked her voice actress, so that worked for me. In case you don't know what Six of Crows is, it seems like most of the internet knows, but in case you don't, it is a fantasy heist story. And so it's about a crew of 6 outlaws who are hired by this merchant. They have to like figure out how to break into an unbreakable prison. And it's just kind of great, and I love heists, and this one was really good, and by the end I cared about all of their faces. I'm weak to that like team dynamic anyway, so yeah, this was really good for me. It's a lot of fun. This is technically a companion series to the Grisha trilogy, also by Leigh Bardugo, which starts with Shadow and Bone. I have read that whole series and I liked it. I thought it was fine, but this works a lot better for me personally. And also you don't really need to read the Grisha trilogy in order to understand this. There's a few references to the events of that trilogy, but it's not really necessary to have read that first. So the next book that I read was one that I did on ebook, and it was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I didn't like hugely love this book. I have tried to read Sarah Maas before. I tried to read the Throne of Glass series, and honestly, I just really didn't like it. I failed out within like the first few chapters of it. So I decided to give this one another try because I was doing it for the Pop Sugar reading challenge, and I did manage to finish it, so I liked this one better, I guess. But it just was not hugely thrilling for me. It's a combination Beauty and the Beast and Tam Lin retelling, and it involves fae creatures who, the Beast character is a fairy who can turn into a beast and into a human shape. And other than that, you kind of know what you're getting into when you know that it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling mixed with, at the end, Tam Lin. Like, he's under an enchantment, obviously, and the fairy thing comes into the play with that. There was stuff that I thought was interesting about it, like the fact that she's a hunter. I liked, the opening chapter is her killing a wolf with her bow and arrow, and then it turns out that that was a fairy wolf. Whoops. I just really didn't end up reacting to this one very strongly one way or the other. Like, I don't care enough to go read the sequel, even though I did manage to get through this one. So yeah, I think it's just not really an author that works for me. So the next book that I read was Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. This one I've been teasing for a few months and I finally got to it. This, I did not realize is a YA futuristic dystopia. I thought it was just like a fantasy series. And the weird thing is that I think it would work better if it was just a fantasy series. Like, there's all these hints about the world that got destroyed and it's clearly supposed to be our world, and I just don't think it really adds much. Like, I think it would just be a cleaner story if you just made it a fantasy story. But anyway, the premise of this is that there are people in this world that have extraordinary, like, superhero type abilities, and they all have blood that when you cut runs silver rather than red. And there are different categories of these. Like, there's people with telekinesis, and there's people that can control plants or water or fire, or there's people that have super strength. It's all that kind of stuff, the sort of general, like, gamut of superhero powers. And then the rest of the people are called Reds, and their blood is a normal red color, and they basically work as slaves for the Silvers. So the main character is a red girl who ends up going to work for the palace, and then is just like at this arena and falls in, and it turns out that she is a red girl that has lightning powers, which are silver powers, but her blood is red and she is a red girl. So they sweep her up into the silver court and pretend that she is a, like, long-lost silver princess, and she basically has to, you know, lie, otherwise they're gonna kill her. So again, this is another one where, like, I liked it. I think I liked this one better than Court of Thorns and Roses, but I still didn't really end up falling for it that hard. So this is another one that I'm not sure that I'm gonna continue on with the series. I will be reading the prequel book because that is the category that I'm using for this one. It's read a book and it's prequel. So I liked it enough that I'm willing to read the prequel, but I probably won't continue the series after that. So I have 2 more books to talk about. The next one is another audiobook, and this month I completed Charles Dickens' Tale of Two Cities. I have a bit of a history with Charles Dickens, meaning that I took a Dickens class in college, which I'm sure is shocking to all of you. I'm sure you never would have guessed. And I actually like Dickens. I know that he's not popular, and I know that everyone loves to talk about how he was paid by the word, even though that's not really accurate, but I really liked Tale of Two Cities. First of all, it's a shorter one of his because, let me tell you, I have read David Copperfield and that book is like 900 pages. Tale of Two Cities, in a very sort of broad strokes, is about the French Revolution, and the 2 cities mentioned are London and Paris. And my brother, I told him this and he started really grilling me about what was happening in London that made it so important as a city, and there's really nothing. It's just that there's this family that has gone from Paris to London and then ends up, like, one of them has to go back, and he ends up getting caught up in the Reign of Terror, and because he is descended from an aristocrat, he ends up getting thrown in jail. And so the thing about Charles Dickens is that, yes, he is very wordy, I'm not debating that, but when you're paying attention and really listening to what he's saying, he is so sharp, and he is so funny, and he has absolutely no idea what women are like, but he's so good at getting to, like, these just needle-fine points about society, and a lot of them are still true today. Like, he's really good on bureaucracy, and he can just pick them apart in a way that I find really entertaining. So there were points actually where I, like, laughed out loud during the audiobook. The audiobook is read by Simon Vance, who is one of my favorite audiobook narrators. And so if you have read Dickens, you know if Dickens works for you, but if you haven't read Dickens, I think that this isn't a bad one to start on because it is one of his shorter ones, so it's one of his much more manageable ones. And you do get a sense of his ability to create these, like, really charming but completely out there side characters. So if you haven't read any Dickens, or if you have read some Dickens but want to try to read something else, then I would recommend trying out Tale of Two Cities. So the last book that I have to talk about today, I feel like I have maybe saved the best for last. It is Lumen by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is a YA futuristic sci-fi series that I read for the Pop Sugar category of Read a Dystopia. This one takes place 90% in space on a series of warships, and it is done all in document format, and it is so intensely creepy because it's got some, like, AI creepiness, it's got some, like, virus creepiness. Oh, this book was fantastic. I have not talked about the plot yet. This book has 2 main characters, Katie and Ezra, and they are both 2 teenagers who were rescued off of their home colony planet when a corporation showed up and started bombing them and destroying the colony, because apparently they were a mining colony for one of the corporation's competitors. And so a military ship shows up and destroys 3 out of the 4 of Baytech Industries, like, battle destroyers. It gets damaged in the firefight, and and then 3 ships end up escaping the colony, which are the warship Alexandria, a science research vessel, and a medical shuttle. And they're all being pursued by the remaining Baytech Industries like battle destroyer, and also the AI of the main warship that showed up and rescued everyone may have been damaged. One of the things that I really liked about this book was how it seemed to have elements of like the graphic novel to it. Like here is an example of one of the 2-page spreads. So this is the Alexander and this is the Hypatia, which is the science research vessel. And it's got like this detailed schematic of both of these ships, which I think is great. The next page also has the medical shuttle, the Copernicus, which is the 3rd remaining ship that has escaped. And there were a lot of elements of that, like at one point there's like space battle with like a bunch of small ships, and the way that they showed that was by like having the dialogue be on the page with like the blackness of space behind it, which is just amazing. This is so creative and so cool, and I just thought that it was absolutely fantastic, unlike pretty much any other book that I've read, and I am really excited to read the sequel, which is coming out this month. So that is everything that I read in September, and for what's coming up in October, the first of these is a book that I kind of forgot was happening, which is The Poisoned Blade by Kate Elliott. This is the sequel to Court of Fives, which I read last summer because I picked it up at Comic-Con and absolutely loved, and so I'm really excited that the sequel is out. This is a fantasy young adult series about a girl who is competing in this masked like tournament, which is like an obstacle course type thing, but it's also like competitive obstacle coursing. Anyway, it's really cool. And so the trick is that she is not actually supposed to be competing in these, and she gets away with it because the battles are masked, but the winner unmasks themselves, and so she has to like purposefully lose. So hopefully I will be able to get to the sequel this month. And then the next one is obviously I'm gonna have to read Crooked Kingdoms, which is the sequel to Six of Crows. I'm probably gonna also do this one on audiobook, which is why I'm showing a picture. I don't have the physical copy, but I just loved Six of Crows so much, and I have some other friends that are reading it like right now, so that one's happening now. And then the final book that I wanted to mention, I am hoping to read Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova. This is a book that I've had on my radar for a few months now. I heard about it and just knew that I was gonna have to read it. So first of all, this is an absolutely stunning cover. I think it is beautiful. And also, it's just a really cool idea. So the main character, Alex, lives with her Bruja family in Brooklyn, modern day New York, and in this culture, she has what's known as a death day, which is sort of similar to like a quinceañera or any one of those kinds of ceremonies. And it ends up going rather wrong, and her family disappears. And I think that this is just gonna be excellent. I've started it already, and I'm really enjoying it. And that is going to be everything for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a comment about any of the books that I mentioned down below, and I will see you guys very soon with another video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!